Welcome back to my YouTube podcast. You might remember a little while ago I made a YouTube podcast on AI for wealth managers, for external wealth managers. And there I pointed out three areas where I do believe that there will be the future of AI and that will be used in wealth management. And of one of those topics, the portfolio construction or investment, data-driven investment. We have today an expert with us, Stefan from Isot. Thank you very much for coming.
Great to be here, Mark. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. So can you tell us a little bit, what does your company, your startup Isot do?
Yes. So what we provide is a platform, mostly for asset managers, funds, investment advisors. They can come there and they get AI-based insights around their portfolio. They can create new strategies. They can get an optimization of their portfolios in a fully automated way. And they can also then, once they found a setup that they really like, they can actually wrap this into a financial product.
Okay, so can you tell me a bit more? Because like many people, including myself actually, we've been hearing a lot about AI, machine learning, data analytics, but to understand how do you do it exactly, what do you do with those data, what is how you make decisions, how you support wealth managers?
Yeah, I mean, to be a bit more concrete, so in general what the platform does, right? We source data. Once there's data we harvest ourselves, then there is data that we source from professional data providers, and then we have the portfolio. We have then also the restrictions that we get from the customer. Usually they say it's something about that's the target volatility that they want to have, that's the titles they want to have in and out, maybe some range around what's minimum and maximum allocations. Then they also usually can have a risk-free component in the portfolio. And then what we do is to take all this information, we take the data that we source, it can be market data, but also alternative data sets, especially around news, social media, and then we try to optimize this portfolio fully based on systematic inputs, so that the customer for his specific portfolio or her specific portfolio gets the best result they could get. And especially with taking into account what's their goal function, right? Do they want to have a volatility target? We can also optimize for Sharpe and similar things.
Okay, got it. So you say you take the client needs or the client data, the client requirement, and then you take the market data. Do you also include data from the regulatory side?
Currently, we don't cover regulatory data. I mean, what we do work with or start to work with is like SEC filings and similar things. But yeah, this is an evolving area. So I think there's still a lot of things we can add on the data side. What's the beauty of our solution, on the other hand, is that also the customer can bring their own data sets. They can upload it directly to the portal, and then can also include this data and even their own views. So if they have their own quants or research team or so, they can include these views into the optimization process.
But now when I listen to you, how you do it, to me it seems that is rather data analytics, maybe some machine learning, but not really artificial intelligence. Am I correct, or?
It depends on what part of it that you look at. I think we combine all of these aspects. So we combine machine learning, even, I mean, artificial intelligence. We could now have a long discussion around what's the definitions, right? But we're also working with reinforcement learning, deep learning based aspects. We're even looking a bit at how we could also use large language models for kind of guiding the customers better through the process of creating and optimizing portfolios. So I think we definitely have the AI aspect, but it is usually one component. So when we, for example, do an optimization, a Black Litterman based optimization or something similar, then the AI or machine learning in most cases creates some forecasts, and these forecasts are part of the optimization process afterwards.
Now, when we look at the traditional way, asset managers, wealth managers do it. Where is your USP? Is it, to me, it seems very logical that it's a lot of data, client side, market side. Those data change, especially in the market side, very quickly, very often, and it's getting more and more data. Do you just have a USP? I mean, there to me it's kind of obvious. Do you just have a USP just being faster, hence like less effort, cheaper, lower costs, I want to say? Or do you really believe, or are you convinced that you also generate alpha, or that you create a better performance than a traditional human asset manager?
I would always say it's a combination of two things, right? Maybe the even more important aspect than just the performance itself is the aspect that we enable the asset managers to have kind of truly customized portfolio solutions for their respective customers. So you can always have a good performance in the market with an ETF or something, or just replicate the market. But then you have no choice, right? And what we say is like, okay, there's a new generation of investors coming, and in principle, most of them ask for active management. They want to have a say around titles. They want to know what's the sustainability of their portfolio, etc. And if you want to kind of live up to this, you need to either run a lot of parallel accounts to manage them. It's expensive. Many asset managers still work with spreadsheets, you know that, right? So, and they can't offer this. And the alternatives are always technology heavy and talent heavy, and it's impossible for most of them to fulfill these needs. So they're required to have access to technology that allows them to have a lot of different portfolio setups that are kind of automated in an automated way, optimized and updated, and kind of they're really listening to what happens on the market. So it's kind of what is often called real-time personalized portfolios.
Now I want to go a little bit deeper. Just think it was in February in the Handelszeitung. Oswalt Ruble, former CEO of Credit Suisse and UBS, and especially a trader for like decades and decades. He made a statement. So he was asked about the benefit of AI. And so then Oswalt Ruble said, I assume that the spread of computer consulting will probably increase. However, my observations have shown that the performance generated by computer software only corresponds to what is happening in the market. If it's not better than the market, though, you don't need artificial intelligence. You can easily replicate the market with ETF. Is he wrong?
I would say it's somewhat simplified, right? Like as always. He's not completely wrong. I mean, if you want to just go against the S&P 500 or so, and you try to have a portfolio that is performing better, it's incredibly hard, right? Even with the most modern technology. We've also been doing that for a bit more than 70 weeks now, but we do it with a subset, right, of the S&P 500. We select 10 stocks every week from our forecasts and put them into portfolio. So over this period, we are still slightly outperforming the market. You could say it's not as big, the difference, that it would kind of net the fees and everything still hold. But still, in the end, what's the important aspect of it? If you can have a similar or even slightly better performance with the sub-selection of the full market, then you can start to play around with other kind of wishes and needs of the customers. If they come and say, I only want this 60 from the 504, for example, in the S&P 500, and we can, with these 60, get a similar or even slightly better performance, why wouldn't you do that? And it's going into this direction. That's certainly one of the important aspects. Then it depends from the asset class and the market. There's still a lot of markets that are not as efficient as if you kind of go against the S&P 500. And there you can still have quite a good outperformance if you just apply a mix of modern quant and AI tools. I mean, we're talking about the cryptocurrency market, for example, where we have a big pillar of our offering, and there we can show that in principle it's still possible to kind of considerably outperform. Then another aspect of this here is certainly, I mean, we heard a bit about what UBS and Credit Suisse and companies like this are allowed to do. I mean, they have very clear restrictions on how to use AI and software and modern technology, so they cannot use it to the full potential. So if he said what I saw, it's not really better, then it might also have to do with the fact that it's very difficult for highly regulated banks still to apply artificial intelligence. So to summarize it again, I mean, our promise is not so much that we can outperform for you in every kind of circumstance. Our promise is like, we take all your restrictions that you have, we use all the data that is out there available, and we apply most modern machine learning and quant tools on top of that, and we kind of give you the best possible optimization that the machine under these circumstances could do, and in many cases this performs very well or even outperforms.
Interesting. Now an obvious question I have to ask is ChatGPT. I believe in your area ChatGPT is not exactly what you do. I mean, you can go a little bit maybe in that direction, but still my feeling is, my personal experience as well, is that with ChatGPT, the normal people, like not the techie nerdy people, got really in contact with kind of AI, machine learning, data analytics, or whatever that is, and really got a grip and might lose the resistance or kind of the fear or the not understanding of it. So did you feel in your business, did you feel any impact of the ChatGPT?
Absolutely. I think for us it's great that this development has happened recently. I think AI is definitely one of the hot topics at the moment, and the financial industry is just one place. But the financial industry is always, especially in Switzerland, is a bit let's say traditional and not very fast at taking up new trends. So we had over the last years we had to fight with quite some resistance from potential customers, and the worst kind of that we could hear was that they said it's not relevant, right? And now we don't hear this anymore. So I think ChatGPT and other things have kind of contributed that people think yes, it's relevant. Now everybody has an opinionated idea about whether it's good or not, but for us it's mostly relevant that people think yes, it has impact, and we're convinced it has impact. And now definitely there is more interest from investors, from potential customers, etc.
What I see today, also when talking with wealth managers, still very often it seems to be very traditional. Also the banks, they have big numbers of analysts, and they do partially sometimes even like secondary analysis. So they buy whatever reports or analysis from Goldman Sachs, and they do a second analysis, and so on and so forth. And there personally, honestly, I don't really see why a machine cannot do it better, because it's just faster and they can do more. That to me is obvious. Yet still they do it a lot often like by themselves. So what is your forecast for 5 years? How will that develop, especially in your market? So like AI or data driven investment as you do, how will it look like in 5 years?
Yeah, look, I think by now, especially the smaller players have realized, and especially also a lot of in the EAM field, etc., have realized that the game is stepping up, right? It's tough to kind of really be at the forefront of these developments. So there we see a lot of more, I would say, room to experiment a little bit. It's still hard, when you talk about the larger banks and the bigger players that have their own quants and in-house teams. There it's still a bit this, maybe I can do it myself, and maybe this is going to replace me one day, and I don't want this. So there is a bit more resistance, ultimately. But I think time plays for us and solutions like we provide, because I'm convinced that the development will be so quick also from now. That even medium banks at least will have realized they impossibly can't follow up on these developments, and they will look for third-party providers. They will not replace everything they're doing, but it's just another source of information and the insights that they will use to generate what they need to kind of for their portfolios.
That brings you maybe to my really final question. So you talked about advantages like you have with your solution. That also though raises the question, I mean, big banks, I mean, let's take Goldman Sachs or some other big players, they have so much power, so much computer power. How can startups, like smaller startups such as you with much less funds and such, how can you compete?
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, we're not really competing with them, right? Because what they usually do is to use it in-house. We provide these as resources, especially to people that cannot have these resources in-house. So we're an independent third-party platform for everyone to use. That's not, Goldman Sachs is not the same, right? So, but okay, how could we compete with their in-house development team so they would use our services? It's clear it's all about having the best people on board. That's one thing. And Goldman Sachs is a very good example because one of our employees, his professor at New York University, Professor Peter Kolm, he has worked for Goldman Sachs Asset Management for 20 years, and he's now leading the Mathematics and Finance program at New York University. And I just recently met people from Goldman Sachs in London, and they told me, oh my God, you work with Peter Kolm. I mean, we always try to read his paper and then implement that stuff in-house. So when we work with these people and we have a setup where we're a small startup, we have everything based in the cloud, most modern technology. We don't need to build anything on old kind of legacy software. We're much faster. It's a given that we're going to be faster. Then they can still decide to do it in-house, but they can also say, okay, maybe let's try the newest things that Isot has on a platform. If it works for us, what kind of insights it would generate, and then maybe they still go and do it themselves, but they would anyway want to use it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I believe we will be relevant in the market, and we need to push forward. And like this, it's for us. It's clear we're fast. We're working with the best people. We will keep pushing. There's no way around Isot one day. Okay.
So Stefan, thank you very much. So I wish you best of luck and best of success with your path with your endeavor, with your startup. Thank you for coming. That was very, very insightful and interesting, what you let us know about AI and how one can use it for investment. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark, for inviting me and for the great conversation. I'd be happy to see you again.
Thank you.